Hello everybody and welcome to today's lesson at the Butterfly Princess Academy, where curiosity takes flight and wisdom wears wings. Today we're going to be looking at and studying lecture 6, week 6 of 24 of our course entitled The Butterfly Princess's Guide to Global Folklore and Enchanted Tales, discovering magic in myths, legends and wonder stories across cultures. This week's lesson, week 6 of 24, is entitled Hearth and Horror, Divine Femininity versus Crone Wisdom in Slavic folk parallels. So here goes. Slavic mythology rooted in the animistic and polytheistic traditions of pre-Christian Eastern Europe offer a rich tapestry of archetypes that refine the complexities of human experience. Among these, the juxtaposition of divine femininity embodied by nurturing, life-giving goddess or crone wisdom, represented by benevolent or fearsome figures associated with death, reveals a profound cultural duality. Central to Slavic domestic and spiritual life was the hearth, a symbol of warmth, fertility and communal continuity. This sacred space was governed by goddesses who personified the life-affirming aspects of femininity. Foremost among them was Mukosh, a maternal deity reentering across Slavic regions, often depicted with a distaff and spindle. Mukosh embodied fertility, agriculture and the productive power of women's labour. Her association with spinning, a metaphor for weaving fate, linked her to the cyclical nature of life, death and rebirth, and we're going to be discussing more about Mukosh because she's one of the female figures in the lessons about women who have shaped worldwide belief. A metaphor for weaving fate links her to the cyclical nature of life, death and rebirth. As a guardian of childbirth and patron of weaving, she symbolised the interconnectedness of human activity and cosmic order. Complementing Mukosh was Yaga, a goddess of love, harmony and spring. Celebrated in songs and seasonal rites, Yaga's rituals often involve dancing, floral wreaths and an invitation for maternal bliss. Her presence underscored the Slavic relevance for nature's regenerative power, mirroring the spreading of crops and the renewal of life. Together, Mukosh and Yaga represented the idolised hearth archetype, benevolent, generative and integral to social stability. Archaeological evidence such as embroidered ritual towels and clay figurines depicting vulturous female forms further underscores the sacred status of these deities. Their variation persisted in synchronization practices even after crystallization, with Mukosh later merging into the cult of Friday, saint-linked spinning and women's work. In stark contrast to the nurturing hearth goddess stood the enigmatic figure of Baba Yaga, the archetypal crone of Slavic folklore. Dwelling in a hut perched on chicken legs surrounded by a fence of human bones, Baba Yaga struggled the roles of helper and hindrance. Her appearance, iron teeth, bony legs and appetite for human flesh embodied the terror of the unknown. Yet she was also a font of wisdom, offering guidance to those brave or cunning enough to navigate her trials. Baba Yaga's ambivalence reflects the Slavic understanding of wisdom as inseparable from danger, a liminal figure inhabiting the forest's edge, a boundary between civilization and wildness. She mandated transitions, life to death, ignorance to knowledge, innocence to maturity. Her mortar-and-pestle tools for grinding and transformation symbolise her role in breaking down old forms to make way for new growth. This duality positioned her as both destroyer and creator, a necessary force to the cynical worldview of societies. Similarly, the Maroon cult highlights the Crone's connection to death and seasonal decay. A goddess of winter, nightmares and barrenness, Moranga was ritually drowned or burned in effigy during spring festivals to ensure the return of fertility. Her destruction was not an end but a precursor to renewal, illustrating the independence of honour and rebirth. A summary of Baba Yaga. So here's a summary of the story of Baba Yaga. In the heart of a vast Russian forest, there lived an elderly widow consumed by sorrow. His beloved wife had passed years prior, leaving him to raise their young daughter alone. Though he cherished his child deeply, his loneliness dogged at him like a restless winter wind. Desperate for companionship, he remarried a woman whose beauty masked a cruel heart. The stepmother's resentment towards the girl feasted in secret. She showered the child with false affection in her husband's presence, but subjected her to relentless abuse in his absence, striking her with birch rods and demeaning her with venomous words. One fateful day, the man departed on a lengthy journey, leaving his daughter vulnerable. Seizing the opportunity, the stepmother devised a sinister plan. Under the guise of needing a shirt sewn, she ordered the girl to visit her aunt, a thinly veiled reference to her own sister, the infamous Baba Yaga. Locals whispered of a witch, a skeletal crone with iron teeth and a ravenous appetite for children, who dwelled in a hut perched on chicken legs. The girl, however, was no fool. She pretended to obey, but veered off the path towards her aunt's cottage, a sanctuary hidden deep in the woods. Her wise aunt, upon hearing the girl's plight, unrevealed a tapestry of survival strategies. Baba Yaga's domain, she warned, was guarded by treacherous, a sneering cat, ravenous dogs, a creaking gate, and a vengeful birch tree. To appease them, the girl must offer gifts: ham for the cat, bread for the dogs, oil for the gate's hinges, and a ribbon to adorn the birch. Armed with these tokens and a trembling heart, the girl ventured to the witch's lair. Baba Yaga's hut loomed ahead, its stench of decay permeating the air. The witch, with her sinewy limbs and gaunt claws, greeted the girl with a mockingly sweet invitation. Inside, the walls echoed with the groans of past victims. Baba Yaga tasked the girl with weaving cloth while she departed, instructing her emaciated maid to heat a cauldron for the girl's bath. and of her impending slaughter. The maid, a pitiful figure starved of kindness, hesitated when the girl offered her a vibrant neckerchief. Overwhelmed by this rare gesture of compassion, the maid allowed the girl to flee. As the girl slipped away, the hut's talking cat lounged close by. Remembering her aunt's advice, the girl tossed the cat a morsel of ham. Grateful, the feline gifted her a comb and a scrap of enchanted cloth, whispering, "Throw these behind you when death approaches." The girl then navigated each peril, plating the slathering dogs with bread, seething the gates squeaked with oil, and taming the birch warmth with a ribbon. Each act of kindness transformed hostility into a guiding her towards freedom. Meanwhile, Baba Yaga returned to find her prey vanished. Enraged, she interrogated her servants. The cat, licking its paws, retorted, "You've never given me more than scraps, yet she fed me ham." The maid, twirling her new neckerchief, simpered. She saw me as human, infuriated. The witch mounted her mortar, wielding a pestle as an oar and a broom to erase her tracks. She thundered through the forest, interrogating each guardian. The gods, gates and birch tree echoed the same refrain. She showed us kindness, you give us nothing. As Baba Yaga closed in, the girl held the cloth sparing a churning river. A churning river. The witch's oxen drank it dry, but the girl then flung the comb, which erupted into an thicket of thorns. Baba Yaga, gnashing her iron teeth, became ensnared, a fitting torment for her eternal hunger. Upon returning home, the girl found her father bewildered by his wife's lives. Her tearful recounting peeled away his naivety, revealing the stepmother's monstrous tree farm. In a grim climax, father and daughter executed justice, ensuring the stepmother's mother's tyranny ended. This tale, rooted in Slavic folklore, paints Baba Yaga as an ambivalent figure, sometimes a predator, sometimes a reluctant mentor. Unlike Western witches, her mortality is flawed. In Vasilisa the Beautiful, she aids the heroine, testing her resilience with impossible tasks. Here, however, the true antagonist is the stepmother, whose betrayal exploits social fears of maternal replacement. The story underscores the power of empathy. The girl's small acts of generosity disarm Baba Yaga's mingers, creating the stepmother's transactional cruelty. The ending's violence, while jeering, reflects folklore's blunt moral logic. Evil must be eradicated, yet Baba Yaga's ambivalent fate, forever trapped in the thorny forest, hints at the cynical nature of fearing survival. Her legend endures a testament to the complexities of human and inhuman nature. For those intrigued, Vasilisa the Beautiful offers another lens into Baba Yaga's duality, weaving magic, trauma and triumph into a Russian Cinderella archetype. Both tales, however, share a spine of steel heroines, who outwit darkness through courage and compassion. Here's a summary of Vasilisa the Beautiful. In this Russian folk tale, often viewed as a darker, more mystical counterpart to Cinderella, the protagonist, Vasilisa, is a gentle and kind-hearted girl whose mother dies when she is young. On her deathbed, Vasilisa's mother gives her a small wooden doll, instructing her to feed it a crumb of bread and a drop of water whenever she needs help. The doll, imbued with magic, becomes Vasilisa's protector and guide. After her mother's death, Vasilisa's father remarries a cruel woman with 2 jealous daughters. The stepmother and stepsisters resent Vasilisa's beauty and grace, forcing her to perform endless chores in hopes of breaking her spirit. One day, the stepmother extinguishes all the fires in the house and sends Vasilisa into a dark forest to fetch a light from Baba Yaga, certain the witch will devour her. Vasilisa braves the eerie forest, guided by the glowing skull lanterns of these spectral horsemen, bright red and black, symbolising dawn, noon and midnight. She arrives at Baba Yaga's hut, which spins on chicken legs and is surrounded by a fence of human bones. The witch, with her iron teeth and appetite for the unawary, agrees to give Vasilisa fire, but only if she completes a series of impossible tasks, separating rotten corn from gold grain, cleaning the hut and cooking a feast. With the help of a magical doll, Vasilisa accomplishes each task. The doll whispers advice, secretly completing the work while Vasilisa sleeps. Impressed yet suspicious, Baba Yaga questions how Vasilisa succeeded. Vasilisa credits her mother's blessing, enraging the rich who hates anyone connected to eternal love. Baba Yaga throws her out, gives her a flaming skull from the fence's light. Vasilisa returns home, the skull's fire burning brighter in the presence of the step-family. By morning, the skull's gaze incinerates the stepmother and stepsisters, leaving only ashes. Vasilisa buries the skull and travels to a nearby city, where her kindness and skill at weaving catch the eye of the Tsar. He marries her and she lives happily, forever guided by the wisdom of her doll. Baba Yaga's ambiguity. Unlike the previous tale, Baba Yaga here is neither pure evil nor benevolent. She tests Vasilisa's resilience, acting as a harsh but necessary catalyst for the girl's transformation. Her role mirrors the Jewish fallacy of nature, destructive yet generative. The dog symbolises ancestral wisdom and inner strength. Vasilisa's mother, though dead, empowers her daughter through this talisman, emphasising the enduring influence of maternal love. Through kindness, Vasilisa's humility and compassion contrast with her stepmother's malice. Her obedience to the doll, a metaphor for intuition, allows her to navigate darkness without losing her virtues. The stepmother's fiery demise reflects folklore's tendency to punish cruelty with poetic symmetry. Vasilisa's rise from servitude to royalty underscores the belief that goodness and patience are ultimately rewarded. In this story, Baba Yaga's hut, magical test in association with thresholds, life, death, childhood, adulthood, align with her role as a liminal figure in Slavic mythology. Unlike the earlier tale where she is a straightforward antagonist, here she embodies the chaotic forces one must mask it to grow. This duality makes her one of folklore's most compelling figures, a teacher who destroys the unworthy but rewards the resilient. For deeper exploration, compare this to Cinderella. Both heroines endure abuse, receive magical aid and ascend socially. However, Vasilissa's journey is steeped in darker symbolism, skull, cannibalistic witches, and emphasises cunning over passive goodness, reflecting the harsh realities of peasant life in Russian folklore. Educational questions and answers. Right. Why does the stepmother in Baba Yaga send the girl to her sister's hut? The stepmother pretends to need a shirt sewn, but her true motive is to send the girl to be eaten by Baba Yaga, her cannibalistic sister. What four objects does the girl in Baba Yaga use to appease the guardian of Baba Yaga's hut? Ham, the cat, bread for the dogs, oil for the gate, and a ribbon for the birch tree. In Vasilissa the Beautiful, what gift does Vasilissa how does kindness function as a survival tool in both stories? In Baba Yaga, the girl's generosity to the cat, dog, gate and tree earns their aid. In Vasilissa, the protagonist's humility and care for the doll and later Baba Yaga's test ensure her survival. Both stories reward empathy over cruelty. Why is Baba Yaga's role ambiguous in these tales? In Baba Yaga, she is a straightforward antagonist, but in Vasilissa, she acts as a harsh mentor who tests the heroine's worthiness. This reflects her dual role in folklore as both destroyer and teacher. What symbolic meaning might the enchanted objects, comb, cloth, doll, skull hold? They represent ancestral wisdom, the doll transformation, the comb and cloth creating barriers, and the duality of fire, the skull is both destruction and enlightenment. How do these stories address the themes of parental love versus betrayal? In both tales, biological mothers even protect their daughters. For example, the aunts advise the magical doll while stepmothers betray them. This underscores the cultural fear of stepfamilies in folklore. Why might Baba Yaga's hut on chicken legs and fence on bones be significant? The hut symbolises existing between worlds, while the bones represent death and rebirth. Together they reflect Baba Yaga's role as a gatekeeper between life and death. How do these tales reinforce social expectations and femininity? Both heroines succeed through domestic skills, weaving, cooking and quiet cleverness rather than brute strength, reflecting traditional gender roles. However, their agency in outwitting villains subverts passivity. How does the portrayal of Baba Yaga differ between the two stories? In Baba Yaga, she is a predatory force to escape. In Vasilissa, she is an actual arbiter of justice who rewards resilience. This duality mirrors nature's unpredictability. Both heroines face abusive stepmothers. How do their responses differ? The girl in Baba Yaga relies on her aunt's wisdom and escapes through allies. Vasilissa combines obedience to the doll with the quiet rebellion. Both highlight resourcefulness but differ in agency. Is the father in Baba Yaga morally culpable for his daughter's suffering? Why or why not? Yes, His neglect and failure to see his wife's true nature enable the abuse. His visualization and violent justice reflect parental flaws in folklore. Why might Russian folklore use cannibalism and fiery death and skull as punishment? These extremes symbolize poetic justice. Villains are destroyed by their own greed or cruelty. Cannibalism represents moral devouring. Fire purifies evil. How might modern audiences reinterpret the stepmother's villainy? Contemporary readers might critique the tale for stereotypes about stepmothers, or explore the stepmother's motives, for example, social pressures and jealousy. If you were to rewrite Baba Yaga with a modern setting, how would the girl use kindness to navigate challenges, for example, in school or social media? Example, she might stand up to bullies by rallying overlooked classmates like the class of the gate through small acts of solidarity. Design a new guardian for Baba Yaga's hut. What would it be? And what gift would appease it? Example, a sentiment, AI security system, can't buy a code snippet of a heartfelt apology. Both stories use Baba Yaga to explore moral ambiguity and resilience. They ask, is evil inherent or can it be disarmed through empathy? How do marginalised characters, girls and servants, subvert power structures? Rhetorical questions. If Baba Yaga is a known devourer of children, is the stepmother's betrayal not more monstrous? Does the stepmother's cruelty reflect society's fear of maternal replacement, one of women wielding power without love? What does it mean that both heroines survive not through force but through small acts of kindness? Could the cat, dogs and birch tree represent marginalised voices, ignored until someone offers them dignity? Is Baba Yaga a villain, a force of nature, or a mirror reflecting the moral failings of others? Why does Baba Yaga spare Vasilisa but hunt the first girl? Is it because Vasilisa acknowledges her mother's love, a power the witch cannot corrupt? Does the stepmother's violent end absorb the father's negligence, or does it underscore his complacency? Why must Vasilisa's stepfamily burn while Baba Yaga remains trapped in thorns? Is fire purification and thorns eternal torment? Why are the heroines tools domestic ribbons, combs, dolls, while Baba Yaga's are mortal skulls? Does folklore equate femininity with both nurturing and danger? If the hut spins on chicken legs, is it a metaphor for instability or the cynical clinking judgment of society? Insight. Baba Yaga embodies the untamed wildness of nature, neither good or evil, but consequence. She punishes the unprepared for the stepmother's porn, yet rewards the resourceful Vasilisa. Her ambiguity reflects the Slavic worldview where survival depends on respecting, not conquering chaos. Both tales invert power dynamics through empathy. The girl's ham and Vasilisa's goals are quiet rebellions. They weaponise compassion against hierarchies, cruel stepfamilies, tyrant witches. In a harsh world, kindness becomes a radical act. Stepmothers in folklore often symbolize disrupted order. Their villainy may stem from practical anxieties, a fear that women left unsupervised, widows, now wives, will destabilise the family, yet their daughters' triumphs suggest that true lineage, a mother's love, a father's awakening cannot be replaced. Fire destroys Basilissa's oppressors, but also illuminates her paths, the skull lantern. Similarly, Baba Yaga's hearth softens the girl for cooking, but also fuels her escape. Fire is both death and rebirth, a motif echoing Slavic rituals where flames cleanse and renew. Baba Yaga's hut exists between on chicken legs, neither grounded nor airborne, guarded by talking animals, neither beast nor human. To enter her realm is to cross into the subconscious where social rules dissolve. Serving her test requires embracing ambiguity, not fighting it. The heroine's mothers linger as guides, the aunt's wisdom, the doll. Their influence suggests that maternal love transcends death, while stepmothers who lack the sacred bond are doomed to corruption. Is folklore warning against erasing maternal ties? Both girls escape, but their victories are bittersweet. The first girl's father must kill his wife, and Vasilissa triumph leaves her orphaned. Agency in these tales demands sacrifice, a reminder that growth often severs old ties. What if Baba Yaga isn't the villain but the truth teller? Her trials expose hypocrisy, the stepmother's deceit, the father's passivity, society's neglect of the marginalised, the maid, the cat. To survive her is to confront the rocks others ignore, and to emerge wiser, if not unscathed. Alexander Chavez' Russian fairy tales is a monumental anthology that weaves together the rich oral traditions of Slavic folklore into a literal tapestry as vibrant and intricate as the embodied ritual towels of rural Russia. Compiled in the mid-19th century, Alexander's collection preserves over 600 tales, myths and legends, offering a portal into the collective imagination of people shaped by vast forests, harsh winters, and history of resilience. These stories brimming with witches, tsars, talking animals, and enchanted objects transcend mere entertainment. They are cultural artifacts that are called moral codes, social anxieties, and their spiritual worldview of pre-modern Russia. Through their vivid imagery, systemic narratives, and archetypal characters, Alexander's tales reveal a world where the boundaries between the human and the supernatural blur, where virtue and cunning are the keys to survival. Alexander's tales unfold in a mythical Russia where geography itself is alive. The dense primeval forest is not merely a setting but a character, a realm of danger and transformation in tales like The Frog Princess or Vasilissa the Beautiful. Heroes venture into forests teeming with Baba Yaga's hut on chicken legs, rivers guided by fiery serpents, or glides where wolves speak in riddles. These woods symbolise the unknown, a liminal space where social rules dissolve and protagonists face trials that test their moral fibre. The tale's repetitive journeys, heroines crossing rivers, climbing glass mountains and descending into underworlds, mirror the cyclical rhythms of a dream life, planting, harvesting and surviving the eternal return of winter. The natural world in these stories is deeply anismetic. Trees weep, raising tears, winds whisper warnings, and even household objects like brooms and stones possess agency. In the magic swan geese, a skull offers refuge to a fleeing child. Its crackling fire a metaphor for eternal perception. Such elements reflect a pagan undercurrent where every aspect of nature is embodied with spirit, a perspective that coexists uneasily with the orthodox Christian framework imposed on later retellings. Alexander's characters are less individuals than archetypes, embodying virtues, vice and existential dilemmas. The hero, often Ivan the Fool, is a figure lazy yet resourceful, dismissed by society but blessed with luck. His success hinges not on strength but on kindness, feeding a beggar, sparing a trapped animal, or humility, accepting ridicule. In Ivan the Fool and the Magic Horse, Ivan's simplicity allows him to outwit his arrogant brothers, suggesting that wisdom lies in rejecting greed and pride. The heroine, typified by Vasilisa or Mara Minerva, combines beauty with cunning. Her trials, spinning impossible winging, surviving Baba Yaga's task, highlight domestic skills as metaphors for inner strength. Yet her agency is often criminalised by potential harms. Even when she rescues a cursed prince, her reward is marriage, not sovereignty. Most iconic is Baba Yaga, the cannibalistic crone who struggles the role of villain and mentor. In Vasilisa the Beautiful, she sets impossible tasks but rewards perseverance. In Baba Yaga and the Kind Girl, she devours the unworthy. Her hut, rotating on chicken legs and fenced with bones, embodies mortality, a threshold between life and death, childhood and adulthood. She is nature's ambivalence, destructive yet generative, feared yet necessary. The stepmothers and invidious siblings represent social corruption. Their cruelty, starving children, sending them to die, reflects fears of family betrayal in a culture where blended families were common yet fraught. Their gruesome ends, burning, dismemberment, serves as reinforcing communal values. In Alexander's universe, magic operates with the precision of moral algebra. Enchanted objects, a self-swinging sword, a towel that becomes a river, rewards the virtuous and humble. Conversationally, greed or hubris triggers curses. A prince who ignores a witch's warning turns to stone. A convict merchant is devoured by demons. The tale's rigid moral logic offers comfort. Evil is punished, goodness rewarded, and balance restored. Yet this simplicity marks deeper ambiguities. Baba Yaga, through a cannibal, often aids heroines who respect her rules. The villain's demise hinges on solving an ethyl puzzle, his soul hidden in an eagle inside an egg, a metaphor for confronting mortality, though wit rather than force. The tales thus celebrate intellectual and moral ingenuity over brute strength, a subversive message in a feudal society. Alexander's work, though often bewildering in Soviet editions for their positions, content remains a cornerstone of Russian cultural identity. His tales influenced literal giants like Tolstoy, who adapted them for children, and composers like Stravinsky, whose Firebird Ballad echoes the feather of fate, the falcon. Modern authors reimagine these stories through feminist lenses, yet their core themes endure. The tales also preserve fragments of Slavic pragmatism, a worldview but never fully erased by Christianity. Rituals like leaving offerings for house spirits or avoiding forest at night, echoing Baba Yaga's demands for hospitality or the taboo against disturbing burial mounds. Alexander's collection thus serves as where older beliefs shimmer beneath orthodox veneers. Alexander's Russian fairy tales is more than an anthology. It is a communal hearth around which generations have gathered to confront their fears and aspirations. The stories start moral binaries, good versus evil, generosity versus good, then using exploration of human complexity. Baba Yaga's riddles, Ivan's unlikely triumphs, and Vasilis's quiet resilience remind us that survival is an unpredictable world demands not just courage, but empathy, ingenuity, and respect for the unseen forces that shape our lives. In an age of and social thought, these tales resonate anew. They ask us to listen to the whispers of the forest, to honour the marginalised, the beggar, the talking animals, and to recognise that even the darkest trials, like the endless Russian winter, hold the promise of renewal. As himself might have said, and this is translated into English, the tale is a lie, but the hint is true. In the shadow-draped forest of Russian folklore, where the line between the mortal and the mystic blurs, Baba Yaga emerges not merely as a cannibalistic crow, but as a prodigal agent of justice. In Vassilica the Beautiful, her role transcends the archetype of the villain. She becomes an instrument of retribution, weaving fate to punish the wicked and reward the virtuous. Through her trials and the cursed gift she bestows, Baba Yaga orchestrates a tale of poetic justice, where the cruelty of Vasilica's stepmother and stepsisters unveils into self-destruction. Baba Yaga, the bone-legged witch who dwells in a hut perched on chicken legs, occupies a limited space in Slavic mythology. She is neither wholly good nor evil, but exists as a primal force, a bridge between life and death, chaos and order. Her ambiguity is central to her role in Vassilica the Beautiful, when Vasilica's stepmother sends the girl into the forest to fetch fire, hoping Baba Yaga will devour her, the witch becomes both a threat and a test. The stepmother's malice is met not with direct punishment, but with an opportunity for cosmic balance. Baba Yaga's hut fenced with human bones and guarded by spectral horsemen symbolize the threshold where moral debts are settled. To enter is to confront one's fate. Baba Yaga's task, separating rotten grains from healthy ones, cleaning her hut and cooking a feast, are not ambiguous cruelties but trials of character. The stepmother, confident that Vasilica's kindness and obedience will doom her, underestimates the girl's resilience. Yet Baba Yaga through fearsome recognises virtues. With the aid of her mother's enchanted doll, Vasilisa completes the task for humility and quiet perseverance. The witch's response is telling. She does not kill Vasilisa, but questions her. How did you accompany this, she demands, probing her for the source of the girl's strength. When Vasilisa credits her mother's blessing, Baba Yaga recoils from eternal love, a force she cannot corrupt or consume. Expose her own barrenness. In this moment, the witch becomes a reluctant ally, offering Vasilisa the very weapon that will destroy her oppressors. The flaming skull Baba Yaga gives Vasilisa is no mere touch. It is an artifact of judgment. Its fire, harmless to the innocent, burns with a ravenous hunger for deceit. When Vasilisa returns home, the skull's hollow eyes fixate on her stepfamily, reducing them to ashes. This act is not random vengeance, but a ritual of purification. Fire in Slavic tradition symbolises both destruction and renewal. The burning away of impurity, the stepmother and stepsisters who sought to extinguish Vasilisa's lights are consumed by the flames, and flames they themselves ignited. Baba Yaga, though absent in the final act, is the architect of Baba Yaga, though absent in the final act, is the architect of their doom. By entrusting Vasilisa with the skull, she ensures that justice is served, not by her hand, but by the natural consequences of the stepfamily's own malice. Vasilisa's triumph, rising from servitude to becoming a Tsarina, is inseparable from Baba Yaga's role. The witch, often depicted as a devourer the unworthy, here facilitates the girl's transformation. Her trials strip Vasilisa of naivety, forging her into a figure of wisdom and agency. Yet Baba Yaga's motivations remain enigmatic. Does she act out of respect for Vasilisa's virtue, or does she simply relish the chaos of punishing the guilty? The tale suggests both, but Baba Yaga embodies the duality of nature. She is the storm that destroys the rotting tree, but nourishes the soil for new growth. Her justice is not kind, but intoxicable, a reflection of the harsh moral governing the folkloric world. In Vasilisa the Beautiful, Baba Yaga functions as a folkloric embodiment of karma. The stepmother's attempts to weaponize the witch's hunger backfires, illustrating the universal truth. Those who saw cruelty reap ammunition. This narrative mirrors broader themes in Russian folklore, when supernatural forces intervene to restore equilibrium. Baba Yaga's role as both predator and punisher underscores a worldview where morality is not enforced by human institutions, but by animal powers that recognise purity and corruption. Baba Yaga's hut, with its spinning walls and bone-strong yard, is more than a setting. It's a courtroom where the human heart is weighed. In Vasilisa the Beautiful, the witch's trials and the skull's fiery gaze reveal her function as an hybris of shadow justice. The stepfamily's demise is not a random horror, but the accumulation of their moral decay, facilitated by a force that exists beyond good and evil. Through this tale, folklore warns that cruelty, like a spark in dry tinder, ignites its own destruction. Baba Yaga, in all her terrifying ambiguity, ensures that the scales of justice, however twisted, find their balance. In the flicker of the skull's flame, we see the essence of her power. She is the darkness that judges the darkness, the wilderness that devours the unworthy, the paradox that makes her one of folklore's most enduring icons. The tensions between divine femininity and Crone wisdom mirrors broader Slavic cosmological themes. The rod system, which ventured as ancestral life forces, rod and birth goddess framed existence as balance between nurturing order, hearth and chaotic transformation. Crone. This duality was echoed in seasonal rituals, winter solstice celebrations where mass processions evoking both malevolent spirits and malevolent entities sought to create opposing forces. Socially, these archetypes reinforce gender roles while acknowledging women's multifactorial power. The Hearth goddess idolised motherhood and domesticity, serving as models for female virtue. Conversely, Crone figures like Baba Yaga subverted these norms, representing marginalised older women, widows, healers and midwives, who wielded knowledge outside control. This portrayal as fearsome yet wise may reflect social ambivalence toward female autonomy, particularly in realms like her death rituals and prophecy. The half-Crone duality persists in Slavic folklore. Fairy tales often juxtapositions the kind stepmother and Mukosh-like figure with the wicked witch of Baba Yaga analog, underscoring the moral complexity of feminine power. Similarly, folk charms against illness or misfortune evoke both nurturing and fearsome forces, such as appeals to Mother Moist alongside rituals to ward off unclean spirits. Modern reinterpretations from literature to film continue to explore these archetypes. Baba Yaga's resurgence in neo-pagan movements and fantasy genres, for example Hellboy or John Wick, testify to her enduring resonance as a symbol of untamed wisdom. Meanwhile, feminist scholars reclaim Mukosh and Yaga as icons of feminine agency, challenging reductive stereotypes of pre-Christian societies. The Slavic interplay of divine femininity and Crone wisdom reveals a holistic worldview that embraced paradox. The half-goddess ensured continuity and comfort, while the Crones enforced the necessary disillusion of the old to heal the new. Far from make opposites, these forces were independent, reflecting the Slavic understanding of life as an eternal cycle of creation and destruction. By examining these parallels, we gain insight into how ancient Slavs navigated existential uncertainties, honoring both the light of the hearth and the shadows beyond its glow. The figure of Baba Yaga stands as one of the most compelling characters in Slavic folklore, embodying a complex interplay of terror, wisdom, and rooted in pre-Christian Slavic mythology and refined through centuries of oral traditions. Her tales serve as both moral parables and explorations. Baba Yaga's origins lie in the animistic belief system of early Slavic tribes, where natural forces and ancestral spirits were personalised as deities. The name Baba Yaga derives from two logistical roots. Baba, a term for an elderly woman or grandmother, which contradictions of both respect and disillusion, and Yaga, whose impact remains debated. Scholars link Yaga to Proto-Slavic terms such as Yag, honor illness, or serpent, suggesting associations with chaos or primal fear. In some regional variants, she is called, further underscoring her connections to untamed loudness and supernatural power. As Christianity spread across Eastern Europe, pagan deities and spirits were often demonized or absorbed into folkloric traditions. Baba Yaga's dual nature, both fearsome and wise, reflects this synchronization, blending pre-Christian Crone goddesses with medieval anxieties about witchcraft and the unknown. Baba Yaga appears in dozens of Slavic folklore tales, most famously Vasilisa the Beautiful and the Frog Princess, while her stories vary regionally. Recurring motifs define her role. We've talked about these, so I'll move on. Baba Yaga's tale operates on a multiple symbolic levels, reflecting Slavic cosmology and social values. As a dweller of the forest, a space between civilization and wildness, Baba Yaga embodies this limiter. Her hook, never fully human nor animal, represents the threshold between life and death. Knowledge and ignorance. Initiates who survive her trials emerge reborn, having gained wisdom or magical aid. The Crone archetype. Baba Yaga represents the shadow aspects of a triple goddess, maiden mother crone. Unlike nurturing maternal figures like Muka, she personifies the destructive yet regenerative force of nature. Her association with death, skull fangs, cannibalistic tendencies ties her to cycles of decaying renewal akin to the rituals of burning winter effigies. Baba Yaga subverts practical norms, humbled by marriage or she wields authority through knowledge of magic, herbalism and fate. Her tales often concrete social fears of women, particularly widows or heirs, marginalised as witches. Unlike Western European witches, Baba Yaga is neither wholly evil nor malevolent. Her actions hinges on the protagonist's behaviour. Kindness, humility and cleverness are rewarded, arrogance and greed are punished. This reflects a Slavic worldview where morality is contextual and wisdom requires navigating complexity. Baba Yaga's tales serve dual purposes, teaching listeners to respect nature's power and value cunning over brute strength. Her stories also preserved pre-Christian traditions such as ancestral. Some scholars proposed her as a guardian of the dead and a mystic respect for forests. In the 19th century, folklorists like the Alexander that we discussed documented her tales, cementing her status in Slavic literal canon. Russian composers, including and Stravinsky, draw inspiration from her mythos, while authors like J. and Berehynia into modernist analogies. Feminist reading. Scholars interpret Baba Yaga as a symbol of female resilience and non-conformity, challenging reductive gender roles. Contemporary Slavic native faith movements reclaim her as a wisdom figure akin to the Norse or Celtic goddesses. Pop culture. She appears in films such as John Wick, Hellboy, video games, The Witcher, and novels, often reimagined as a trickster or mentor. Baba Yaga's tales endure because the architectural universe tensions order and chaos with life and death, fear and curiosity. Her hut, eternally spinning on the edge of the known world, invites listeners to confront the unknown with courage and wit. As a cultural icon, she transcends folklore, embodying humanity's fascination with the margins of understanding. In studying Baba Yaga, we uncover not only the richness of Slavic tradition, but also timeless truths about the complexities of wisdom and the power of the untamed. I won't read you the questions. Slavic mythology and folklore presents a rich tapestry of female archetypes between nurturing life-givers and fearsome cuddles of wisdom. The lecture Hearth and Horror, Divine Femininity versus Crone Wisdom in Slavic parallels explore the duality, framing it with the cynical interplay of creation and destruction. Pre-Christian Slavic spirituality was steeped on virtuing natural forces through deities embodying dualities. Female figures were central, representing both life-sustaining and transformative figures. The interplay of Hearth and Horror in Slavic traditions reveal a new understanding of femininity's power. Divine femininity upholds social order through nurturing, while the Crone's horror challenges boundaries, meditating life and death. These archetypes, though altered by time, endure as symbols of resilience, reflecting both reverence and fear of women's autonomy. Their legacy underscores a cultural acknowledgement of nature's duality, creation inseparable from destruction, comfort from chaos. Right, if creation cannot exist without destruction, does humanity's fear of the Crone stem from an unwillingness to confront the necessity of decay in our own lives? The Crone's horror reflects a social aversion to acknowledging mortality in Slavic rites like murdering and drowning. Communities ritually embrace decay to ensure renewal. Modern cultures, by contrast, often reject aging and death as failures rather than natural transitions. The Crone's symbolization may expose our discomfort with cycles that demand surrender, not control. What does it mean that societies revere motherhood when marginalising post-reproductive wisdom? Does this mirror our obsession with productivity over legacy? The maiden mother crone traditionally honoured all stages of life, Modern variations of motherhood is productive versus dismissal of older women parallels capitalist values that prioritise output, childbearing labour over contributions, wisdom, mentorship. The Crone's magic reveals a fear of women who exist beyond unity. When religions demonize figures like Baba Yaga, is it the power of a woman they fear, or the threat of a worldview that embraces chaos as a teacher? Baba Yaga's chaotic yet wise challenges the boundaries of good-evil central to institutionalized religion. Her domination reflects a fear of systems that tolerate moral complexity. By labelling her a witch, a practical structure invades forms of knowledge, initiatives, ancestral that exist outside control. Can synchronization ever be truly equal, or does this always serve the dominant power? If the hearth symbolises both women's sanctity and various shackles, can any cultural archetype escape reinforcing practical norms? Archetypes are shaped by their cultural context. The hearth duality reveals how even revered roles police boundaries. Reclaiming archetypes requires reimagining their narratives. Why did mythologies equate aging femininity with horror? Is it fear of mortality or of women who outlive the need to please? The horror of the Crone lies in her defiance of parental expectations. Aging women historically held power as healers and ritualists operating outside male control. When we reinterpret Baba Yaga as a feminist icon, are we liberating her or imposing modern ideals onto ancient ambiguity? Baba Yaga's folklore already subverted norms, but framing her as a feminist hero modernises her resourceless. This risks flattering her moral complexity, yet it also reclaims her as a symbol of resistance to ensure rage. Right, so closing reflections. The interplay of hearth and horror in Slavic mythology is not merely a relic of the past, but a timeless dialogue about the human condition. These archetypes, Mukosha's nurturing embrace, and Baba Yaga's bone-chilling trials remind us that life's fullness lies in its contradictions. To reject decay is to deny renewal, to fear the Crone is to spurn the wisdom forged in darkness. In a world often obsessed with binaries like dark, youth, age, productivity versus worth, these stories challenge us to hold space for complexity, to recognise that power exists not in purity but in balance. So I've got some inspirational quotes to carry forward. The Crone does not apologise for her fire. She knows even the hearth must sometimes burn to cleanse. You cannot have the harvest without first letting the field lie fallow. Do not fear the witch in the woods, fear the world that made her fearsome. Final thoughts. Slavic mythology teaches us that true wisdom is not found in avoiding shadows, but in learning to walk beside them. The Crone and the goddess, the hearth and the horror are not opposites, but partners in the dance of existence. As we navigate modern struggles, climate collapse, gendered inequality, the alienation from nature, these ancient stories offer a compass. They urge us to honour the crones among us, to stand behalf of community and to confront the necessary endings that make beginnings possible. Carry forward this truth. To live fully is to embrace the full spectrum of light and shadow within ourselves and the world. The fire that warms can also cleanse. The crone who terrifies can also guide. In this duality we find wholeness. And a Russian proverb that has been translated into English is glory to wisdom. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that then concludes today's lesson at the Butterfly Princess Academy, where curiosity takes flight and wisdom wears wings. I would very much like now to thank you for joining me for today's lesson, and hope very much that you will be able to join me next time in the near future for more lessons here at the Butterfly Princess Academy. But until then, take care, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you again very soon. Bye for now, take care, bye bye.